You know, we're often told that history is set in stone, that it's a collection of facts everyone just agrees on. But what if the official story is just the top layer? What if underneath there's a completely different narrative, one that was deliberately buried? Today, we're peeling back those layers to look at the events right after the Prophet Muhammad's death, events that would change the course of history forever.
See, this isn't just about a simple disagreement over who should lead. The sources we're digging into today talk about a promise made out in the open for all to see, and a secret plot hatched in the shadows to break it. And it all starts not with confusion, but with a moment of absolute clarity.
To really get what happened, you have to understand the foundation that was meant to hold everything together. And for that, we have to go to a place called Ghadir Khumm. I want you to just picture this for a second. It's 632 AD. The Prophet Muhammad is heading back from his very last pilgrimage. He stops the entire caravan, we're talking thousands of people, in the middle of the scorching desert. He tells the people up ahead to come back, and he waits for everyone lagging behind to catch up. This was no ordinary pit stop. This was for something big.
And this was it. This was the proclamation. In front of that massive crowd, the Prophet takes the hand of his cousin and son-in-law Ali, holds it up high, and says these exact words. Now, the word he used, Mawla in Arabic, it's a heavy word, and for many people there, it clearly meant one thing: successor. As far as they were concerned, the matter was settled. But while all this was happening in the light of day, a very different plan was supposedly being cooked up in the dark.
And this is where our story takes a sharp, dark turn. We go from that open desert plain straight into the most sacred place in all of Islam, the Kaaba itself.
Certain sources, especially an early text called Kitab Sulaim ibn Qais, talk about a secret pact. They call it the Saqifa al-Maluna, which translates to the cursed document. And listen, this wasn't described as a last-minute political squabble. The sources frame this as a pre-planned constitutional conspiracy. Now, look at these names. This is what's so critical to this whole narrative. These aren't just random guys. These are some of the most prominent, high-ranking companions. And their goal, according to this account, was brutally simple: to make a pact that the caliphate, the leadership, would never go to the Prophet's family, to basically erase the declaration of Ghadir. Okay, so making an oath is one thing, but the sources we're looking at suggest this wasn't just talk. This pact was immediately put into motion with a fast and furious three-part strategy to seize power. You can see how this timeline shows a clear escalation, right? First, the secret agreement. Then, a physical attempt to remove the Prophet from the picture. And finally, a political move to make sure he couldn't put his final order down on paper. Let's break these down.
So on the way back from an expedition, someone tried to kill the Prophet at a mountain pass. Now, mainstream sources like Sahih Muslim do confirm this happened, and they say it was hypocrites from within his own camp. But other historical accounts are cited to have actually named the people involved, before those names were, allegedly, scrubbed to protect their legacies. The main takeaway from this narrative, though, is that the enemy was on the inside.
And that brings us to the final move. The Prophet is on his deathbed. He asks for something to write with so he can leave a will, something, he says, that will prevent you from ever going astray. But, as documented in the famous collection Sahih Bukhari, Umar objects. He says the Prophet is just delirious from the sickness, that God's book is enough. An argument breaks out, and in the chaos, the request is denied. The document is never written.
So when you actually lay it all out like a dossier, a pretty clear pattern starts to emerge. You see the same circle of names showing up again and again. They're connected to the secret oath, they're implicated in the assassination attempt, and they're right there, publicly stopping the Prophet's final will. The story being told here is of a coordinated plan, not just a series of unfortunate events. With the Prophet's final command blocked, the stage was set. The moment he passed away, the plan allegedly kicked into its final political gear. The timing here is just everything. While Ali and the Prophet's closest family are grieving, preparing his body for burial, a small group of companions rush off to a place called Saqifa for a secret meeting. And it was there, in that closed-door session, that Abu Bakr was named the new leader, completely bypassing the family and the public declaration at Ghadir.
And how was this new leadership enforced? Well, according to historical accounts, including the well-known history of Tabari, it involved force. Umar allegedly went to the house of the Prophet's own daughter, Fatima, and threatened to set it on fire if the men inside, including Ali, didn't come out and pledge their loyalty to the new caliph.
So the new state was born, But not everyone just fell in line. One incredibly powerful voice spoke up, not just against the politics, but against the spiritual corruption he saw creeping in. His name was Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. What Abu Dharr saw was a total 180. The Prophet's time was all about humility. The leader ate with the poor, lived in a mud hut. But by the time the third caliph, Uthman, was in power, a new aristocracy was taking over. In Abu Dharr's eyes, the caliphate was turning into a kingdom, with governors like Muawiyah building huge, fancy palaces. And Abu Dharr didn't whisper his complaints. He walked right up to the powerful governor Muawiyah and confronted him about his new palace. He said, "If you're building this with your own money, it's wasteful. And if you're using the people's money, it's treason." I mean, can you imagine? That's a direct challenge to the new culture of wealth and power. He didn't stop there. He took his protest all the way to the top, to the Caliph Uthman himself. He saw this growing gap between the rich and the poor, and he didn't see it as an accident. He saw it as a deliberate policy, a betrayal of the economic justice that was supposed to be at the core of Islam. And his reward for all this? For speaking truth to power, Abu Dharr, one of the first and most loyal followers of the Prophet, was exiled. He was sent out to the desert to die, all alone. It was a terrifyingly clear message to anyone else thinking of challenging the new establishment. So let's just take a step back and absorb what this all means. These events, all happening within a few years of the Prophet's death, weren't just a political squabble. They created a massive fault line, a crack that would run through the entire history of the Muslim world. It really all boils down to this, doesn't it? A public promise made under the sun versus a secret pact made in the shadows. The clash between these two moments, one of light, one of darkness, is the very origin point of the split between Sunni and Shia Islam, a division that has shaped history for 1,400 years. And that leaves us with a question that's so much bigger than just this one piece of history. When the principles of a revolution are betrayed by the very people who take power, who gets to be the guardian of its memory? Is it the state that reads the official textbooks, or is it the dissenters who are exiled for speaking out? It's a question that echoes from the 7th century all the way to right now.